AVS Media Demo.
Papa Hotel Lima Echo November radio check.
Papa Echo November, good afternoon, read you 5.
Good afternoon, read you 5 as well, Papa Echo November.
The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. Once again, our toll-free number, 1-800-610-7035, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Brooks Agnew. He is a lecturer, veterinary, veteran, documentarian, Amazon best-selling author. He co-authored the landmark work, The Arc of Millions Years, that has been critically acclaimed as one of the most comprehensive works ever written on the advent of 2012. Now, his latest book, Remembering the Future, The Physics of the Soul and Time Travel, was ranked in Amazon and Barnes & Noble in the two categories, in the top 10 of the two categories at the same time. He is currently the president and CVO of Vision Motorcars, manufacturing affordable electric vehicles for the American highway. And we're going to be talking to Brooks this hour about his new book, Remembering the Future, The Physics of the Soul and Time Travel. And Brooks, welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Rob. Good to be back in the X Zone.
So let me see. What have you been doing since you and I last talked so many years ago?
Oh, my goodness. Well, let's see. I've taken a few breathers, but that's about it. Other than that, it's been 14-hour days, 7 nights, 7 days a week, building the electric car company and writing books. So everything's been busy. It's been very productive.
Let me just ask you one question to get us out of the gate. What happened to all the hoopla surrounding December the 21st, 2012, which in the opinion of many was a major non-event?
Well, it was, to be sure, a crescendo of multiple cultures around the planet. We wrote 2,000 pages on the subject, and by the time we were done, we had pretty much the same opinion as the naysayers, and that is that the ancients looked toward this stellar and planetary alignment of December 21st, 2012 at the galactic plane to be an event that would, reset the clocks of humankind, so to speak. The most amazing thing is how much of the gross national product, so to speak, of so many cultures was, architected and designed and engineered and planned and calculated through mathematics and calendars to coincide on that date. Now, the alignment did happen. In fact, we're still in the middle of it, and I find it incredulous that a lot of the naysayers don't admit that some cosmic events, both from our sun and from the galaxy and from our own solar system, have not occurred. They have occurred. In fact, we had, 3 meteors in 2 days? That's pretty amazing. I think we're entering the gravel road of the Milky Way galaxy about now. So these events aren't ending. They're starting.
All right, Brooks, you and I have to take our first commercial break. Please stand by. Exonation Brooks Agnew is my guest this hour. His website is www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. That's www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Once again, our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And don't forget, if you'd like to find out who the who's who in the world of the paranormal, parapsychology, and all the topics that we cover here at the X Zone, visit our online directory, the X Zone Directory of Who's Who, at www.xzonedirectory.com. Exonation, Brooke Agnews is my special guest this hour. We're talking about Brooke's new book, Remembering the Future, The Physics of the Soul and Time Travel. Brooks, what was your inspiration for writing your new book?
Well, I was actually teaching some college mathematics, and I had to teach the section on Fibonacci, which is a way of sequencing numbers and a method of addition that creates a golden mean. Mm-hmm. And I had some adults in my class, and I decided to teach it a little bit differently to keep them interested so they didn't just learn it and forget it. So I started with 2 random numbers and added them together and just started the Fibonacci sequence as though I had started from 0, 1, 1, 3, 5, how the number sequence goes. And by the time I got out to the 8th iteration, that is to say the 8th addition sequence, I divided the 7th number to the 8th number, and I got the golden mean. Well, I was kind of shocked at that. Mm-hmm. So I took decimals and fractions and imaginary numbers and non-rational numbers, and it worked every single time the same way. So I said, if it works with numbers, it has to work with energy. And that just kind of inspired me. So I sat down and started writing about this ability to put sequences of events together in people's lives to see if the golden mean could be developed and that it would turn into some kind of a scientific self-help book. And that's exactly what happened. By the time I finished with the interviews and the subject matter, it was incredible that people who give up after 2 or 3 tries are never successful because they can't build the resonance with the surrounding energy and their set of energy, their lives, to make reality happen for them, to make their dreams happen. But those people that stuck with it at least 8 times did build a kind of zone where everything they did seemed to add to the dream or the vision that they had created, and success was imminent.
Chapter 2 of your book is entitled The Big Bang Never Happened.
I was actually talking with a colleague of mine, Dr. Ed Close. He wrote a book called Transcendental Physics. And we were talking about the book, and we got to a place in the book where we were talking about the speed of light photons, and we looked at the universe from the perspective of a photon, sort of as a thought experiment. And what we realized is that there was no path for the photon, say, from the star Arcturus to Earth. Mm-hmm. So when you go out and you look out at the night sky, a dark night, and you see the star Arcturus, and you say, oh, my goodness, it took 8.7 light years for that photon to reach us. How lucky we are to be able to see that star. But in Dr. Close's theories, at the speed of light, that photon actually has no path between Arcturus and Earth. It's instantaneous, because at the speed of light, time slows down to zero. Well, in space, time is just distance. So if time slows down to zero, then distance is zero. And I said, so, Ed, does that mean that from the perspective of the photon, the Big Bang never happened? The entire universe is still the singularity? And he paused for a second and said, wow, yeah, I think that's actually right. So I realized that in some respect, the universe is still the singularity, and it's actually the observation of human consciousness that has slowed everything down and created the distance that we behold as the physical universe, the 5% of the mass of the universe that's physical.
One thing that I found interesting about your book is that you dedicated it to the Queen.
Yes, I did.
Why?
Well, because in my explorations, and I actually wrestled with this, Rob, I got to tell you, I made a professional decision here, and I think to this day still it was the right one. I took the section out of the book several times about memories, I mean real clear memories of a prior life on another world. I took it out of the book, and then I put it back in, and then I took it out and I put it back in, and finally I said, you know what? Somebody out there needs to read this. Somebody out there needs to know they're not alone, that they have some realization that they existed before this world. So I left it in. And I think that's what helped the book go to number 6 on Amazon, because people related to that. Here was a self-help book that allows you to bring all of everything you ever were to bear in one lifetime.
Is there any proof for past life?
You know, that's a really good question, because proof is what scientists are all about. And,
yeah.
We physicists are all about possibilities and proof. There are some, prior life experts like John Edwards, who used to have a television show and where he
I don't know if we can actually classify him as an expert. I think he's more of a con artist and a criminal.
Well, it could be. But that's really the only proof that we have that past lives exist are these mediums, these kind of people that connect with. It is actually a very personal experience.
Let me just rephrase. Who claim to connect, because there's no proof that these mediums are anything else but charlatans.
Well, I would only argue in the sense that a double-blind experiment was done by Dr. Gary Schwartz with John Edwards, and I will say that there's a 95% chance that John Edwards was genuine.
But John Edwards
was no way he could have known what he knew.
John Edwards was also caught, with the setting up his entire show. So how can we take anything that he says as credible?
Well, what I have found, Rob, and I think you'll agree with this, is that once in a while when a gifted person does receive information, and then showtime comes, and they don't get anything, but the show must go on, so they got to perform. They can't come out and say, well, sorry to say, television audience, but I didn't receive anything today, so I have nothing to say to anybody in this audience. Sorry, that doesn't fly for the ratings.
Yeah.
So,
all right, so what we're saying is they're all staged and they're all phonies.
Well, I'd say that maybe better than 50% of the time they're staged and they're phonies.
Well, we know for a fact that Sylvia Browne's a phony. We know for a fact that John Edwards is a phony because he was caught on air. So how can we take anything that any psychic or any medium or any channel, how can anyone with a brain on their shoulder take it for real? And how can we add credibility to anyone in the scientific community who takes what these phony balonies are saying is real?
Well, that's exactly why we do scientific experiments, though. We do this so that we can prove or disprove these ideas. And, given the statistical data of what parameters were given to John Edwards and what he actually did come through with, he wasn't 100%, not by any means, but he sure beat the odds. And this was a very carefully controlled experiment where he did not know the subject, didn't know the name, and never got to face them, and never got to hear their voice. So he couldn't even tell by voice inflection.
To your knowledge, how many times has John Edwards been tested scientifically?
I think only that once.
So how do we know that if the 10 more times were done, he'd fail 9 of the 10 times? We're just giving him all this credibility based on one test? I don't think so.
Well, it was a long test, though, and it was several test parameters. But I do agree with you.
Yeah.
One experiment does not a theory make.
Right.
However, sometimes that's all you get. I would say that, there are plenty of evidence to show that supernatural things or clairvoyant things or telekinetic things don't exist. But then there are the unexplained, because I can tell you from personal experience, sometimes you just get a premonition. Sometimes you just get a precognition or a deja vu or something. Can you make it happen? No. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
I agree with you 100% that everyone at times has had these gut feelings, this deja vu, or, thinking of someone and the phone rings. I agree with you 100%. I don't think there's one parent listening tonight around the world who hasn't had that inner feeling when something is wrong with one of their siblings or one of their children or their spouse. So I agree with you 100%, but I think that showcasing the ability to perform psychic feats is nothing less than sleight of hand. Because John Edwards isn't around anymore on TV. Sylvia Browne isn't around anymore on TV. There are flashes in the pan.
I agree with you completely. Yeah. And you use 2 words that are the key. One is perform.
Yeah.
And, the other is, to go, I would say, to make a revenue out of it. Mm-hmm. It's a gift.
Yeah.
It's not something that you go out and you sell. It's sort of like being a healer for hire. Something's wrong with that association.
In Chapter 4, which is entitled "Waking Up in the Human Race," there are 3 different types of memories that you classify. You've got the genetic memory, light memories, and atomic memories. What's the difference between the 3?
Well, atomic memory is kind of interesting in that the human body is, from a molecular biological point of view, it's just the peas and carrots that we eat. It's just the cheeseburgers and potato chips and everything that we eat. We are what we eat. But genetically, when we, receive the molecular code from our combination of parents, there is a memory that's tied into the DNA. For some reason, there are innate qualities that go with the genetics. They affect more than just hair color, body size, shape, things like that. They also affect your temperament and your ability to have a propensity for things like music or art or architecture or mathematics. And this is a memory that's passed along from a molecular point of view. And it has nothing to do with education or training or even where you live or your environment. It's passed on molecularly.
Brooks, I hate to do this, Brooks, but you and I have to take a commercial break with our news at the bottom of the hour. Exonation Brooke Agnew is our guest this hour. www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. That's www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. And Brooks and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Exonation Brooks Agnew is my special guest this hour. His website is www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. We're talking about his newest book. It's entitled Remembering the Future, The Physics of the Soul and Time Travel. It's available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble and fine bookstores everywhere. Brooks, before we went to the break, we were talking about the 3 different types of memories, and I believe we just started to talk about light memories before we had to go to the news.
Yes. One of the unique things that humans can do is they can perceive the future, the past, and they can even perceive possibilities of both. And one thing we know is that when something is observed, even by scientific instruments, let alone human consciousness, it changes. It alters just because it was observed. Now, the whole premise of the book is the idea that you can put a clear, energetic goal or a vision or a wish, as it were, out into the future, someplace in the future. And that the instant that thought is placed into the future, from our point of view, it begins to resonate with the universe. That is to say, everything in the room that is a harmonic of or can constructively interfere with that thought or that dream will begin to vibrate. It'll begin to put off energy or light. Now, that energy will go in all directions and in all times. What we have to do is be able to bring that memory back from the future to the present, which is actually the past of that event, and then begin to listen or remember those things that vibrate with that frequency. The whole premise of the book is you don't go out into the future and keep banging the bell over and over and over again. You don't put a picture behind a magnet on your refrigerator door and look at the picture every time you go, for a ham sandwich at the fridge. That doesn't work. Everybody knows it doesn't work. But if you put a picture of a house on your fridge in the future, this is the house I'm going to own. But then you listen to the things that are vibrating with the pathway that leads you to that house, and you put energy into the pathway, then it will sympathetically resonate with your dream in the future along that golden mean that I described in the first segment, and it will materialize.
Now, is this based on scientific experimentation, scientific proof, or is this just a hypothesis?
Well, it's a little of both. It was hypothesis, and we conduct an experiment. Now, in nature, this is the way nature works. The periodic table lays out this way. Planets lay out this way. DNA builds itself this way. Pine cones, conch shells, honeycombs, all kinds of things in nature, even bacterial population growth, works through this Fibonacci process of adding one set of energy to the next set of energy, and then using those totals to add up to make the next.
So are you saying that the future is set? The future cannot be changed?
No, I'm saying the future is not only always in motion and normally chaotic, but that we, through conscious effort, can create the future. Now, obviously, the bigger the goal, the bigger the dream, the more complex it is and the more work it's going to take. But the future is ours to create.
Well, of course.
It doesn't necessarily unfold randomly before us.
Well, if you want to be a doctor when you're a child, you know that there are several steps that you have to go through school. You have to go through college. You have to go through university. You have to go to pre-med. You have to do your internship, and then you become a doctor.
Well, but that's the but first list, Rob. Everybody knows this because the process has been set up. Here's the path. But most goals that people set don't have a set pathway. There is no recipe book to get there.
Well,
you're creating something brand spanking new.
A lot of people set goals that they fail at because they just don't have the ability or the drive to succeed. Everyone can be a failure. Not everyone can be a success.
Well, that's true, but sometimes the failure is the success. Nobody succeeds their way to success. You fail your way to success.
Oh, I don't agree with you.
Well, here's the thing. That the resonance that you set up with the universe and the skill that you build in listening to the universe puts you on the path to be able to stay away from the chaotic, destructive interference activities and stay on the path of the constructive interfering activities.
Give me examples.
It has to work.
Give me examples.
All right. I interviewed a professional golfer. He was a pro-am, and what he did is he tried several tournaments to be able to get into the pros. And I asked him, how many tries did it take you to get into the pros? And he said it took 8. And once I made it to the 8th, it was easy. It was like everything fell into place.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with a semi-pro baseball player who wanted to go pro. Same thing with a real estate investor, an investment banker. It seemed that when the ordinary person, and you said most people can fail, and that's true.
No, I said everyone can fail.
Yes, they can. But they usually fail because they don't go enough iterations. I have found that they quit usually after 2 or 3. Some people will go 4, but the successful always exceed 8.
Well, isn't that just saying in layman's terms that in order to succeed, you've got to keep your nose to the grindstone? Isn't that the same thing that people have been saying for hundreds of years?
Well, yeah, but you don't want to be ground into dust.
Basically, from what I'm hearing is you're using different words to come up with the same result.
Except that I'm backing with mathematics. And when you do that, you start to listen for the things that are resonating with your idea. And believe me, some of them are quite unrelated. An email, a phone call, a job interview, an investment, a sale. These are the things that just pop up like coincidences, one after another. And you'll know because of the energy that those things are putting off if it's something you need to do or something that it's a distraction.
But wouldn't you agree that in order to succeed in any profession, that you have to make it happen? It's not going to happen on its own. I don't care.
That's very true. That determination is what separates the successful from the failure.
And you can put in all the different thoughts you want into the future. But in my opinion, and I haven't seen anything to the contrary, the future will not. So many people think that, okay, if I confess it, I will possess it. I agree that there are certain things that will happen, but you can't will yourself a magnificent house and a magnificent job if you don't do anything to make it happen. You're not. You're not going to get that dream house if you sit on your butt in front of a TV doing Nintendo and video games all day and not take responsibility for your own life and making things happen. You're not going to.
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt that if you're going to win the lottery,
you need to buy a ticket. Exactly. So what am I missing here?
Well, like most self-help books, what it's designed to do is to give you hope that there is a pattern, that there is a law in the universe, because it's working all around us. It works whether it's a proton or whether it's the tallest building in the world. Things organize after energy is put into them, or if they happen to resonate along the golden mean. Nobody puts energy into the universe. It's just a random quantum foam. But for some reason, 5% of it forms as the third dimension, and we see it as protons, neutrons, electrons arranged in various mathematical patterns.
All right, so if I put this out into the future, how do I put it there? You know, is it just a thought, a desire?
It is a thought, and the clearer that you can make it, the more detail you can put into it, third dimensions, measurements, color, weight, cost, the more detail you can put into it, the more positive it is going to appear in the future. Whether you're there to enjoy it, you know.
That just sounds like planning to me. It doesn't sound like anything that is very astonishing or earth-shattering. It sounds like basic planning.
Well, it's advanced planning, and it uses principles by which the universe aggregates into solid matter.
Do you really believe that?
I'm not much of a believer.
Because
I'm more
I've got
of an experimenter, improver, and observer.
I've got to be honest with you. I'm having one heck of a time believing this. Because I come from the school of hard knocks. You know, if you want to do something, you work at it, you make it happen. You don't use the woo-woo factor and quantum physics to relate to your success or your failure. Only you can make yourself a success or the failure. The ball's in your court at all times.
Well, that's one of the chapters we talk about personal responsibility, and you're absolutely right. You can't abdicate your personal responsibility or your life condition to anyone else. You are 100% responsible for your own life condition.
So who would need this book beside a person who doesn't have any self-motivation or doesn't have any desire to succeed or is using so many excuses on why they are failing and not succeeding?
Well, fortunately, there are enough people out there like that they buy books and make them number one. But I can tell you I've received a lot of mail from people who received breakthroughs because they were able to not focus on the dream so much, but focus on the things that resonated with the dream. They were able to redirect their energy, not something distant out in the future, but something close and local and real and something tangible that they could put energy into today that would lead them to their dream. How did they recognize it? Because they were able to recognize the energy of those things that resonate with their dream.
What kind of things would resonate with a person's dream?
It's kind of remarkable. Some of those things, when you're looking at them in real time, have nothing to do with your dream, or so it seems. A job interview, an email, a phone call, a party that you need to go to, and then you meet somebody. But when you reach that dream, when you reach your goal and you look back, it looks just like a straight line because all of the events line up perfectly. But there's no way you could have seen those things from the past, which is the present.
Well, of course, that makes sense. How could you? In order to get from point A to point B, you've either got to take a car, a bus, a train, walk, a moped, an electric car. You're not going to get there by twinkling your nose like an episode of Bewitched. I think that everybody who with an ounce of common sense in their brain would understand that.
You'd be surprised how many people don't. It isn't a matter of a but first list. This is what I want to do, but first I got to do this, but first I got to do this, but first I got to do this. Because we have a tendency to draw future threads. That is to say, we tell the universe how it's going to happen. Okay, the first thing I need $1 million. So then they concentrate on the $1 million and they end up dying an ignominious death and penniless. Because the $1 million wasn't the path to that house. They're going to get the house, but maybe it's going to come through another way. For instance, I've had people tell me, look, I've always wanted to go to Egypt, but it costs so much money, and I got to go to a travel agent, I got to buy tickets, blah, blah, blah.
It sounds like they're lazy.
It
sounds like they're lazy people because they've got to do this, they've got to do that. They're making excuses on why they should fail and not why they should succeed. It's got nothing to do. It's got nothing to do with throwing a thought into the universe.
Themselves in Egypt, and the opportunity came another way. they actually got a chance to write a magazine article, which required them to fly to Egypt, and the magazine paid for it. So they did get to Egypt, just not by raising the money to buy the ticket. They got it by expressing a desire to write a magazine article for a magazine.
Okay, so what they did was they got off their fat butts and used their common sense and said, if I can't get it this way, maybe I can get it another way. Like, this is common sense to me. I don't see why people would...
It is common sense.
So
I know that.
Are there that many...
A lot of people don't have common sense.
So what you're saying is there's a lot of stupid people out there.
Remembering the future for dummies. I could have called it that.
Stand by. You and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break. X-Zone Nation. My guest this hour is Brooks Agnew. His website is www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out who's who in the world of the paranormal and the science, parapsychology, and all the topics that we cover here on the X-Zone, you can find them listed in the X-Zone Book of Who's Who, which will be available in print and on your favorite bookstore shelf in the very near future. But right now, you can go to xzonedirectory.com. I'll be back. Don't go away. X-Zone Nation, Brooks Agnew is our guest this hour. rememberingthefuturebook.com. That's www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. Brooke, your first book that you and I discussed, The Arc of Millions Years. How does that compare with this book that you've just released now?
Well, the Arc of Millions of Years series turned into 4 volumes, and it was a co-authored book between myself and my co-author E.J. Clark. Mm-hmm. And it was a book that brought all of the ancient cultures together, from Egyptian to Babylonian, Mayan, Hopi, to try to coordinate all of the ideas that these peoples had about what the future was going to bring to Earth. What was the origin and destiny of the Earth? And what we found as we studied these various cultures and their writings, both religious and governmental, is a common thread, a common idea, that there was much more to the human existence on the planet than meets the eye. That there was a relationship, not only between the humans on the planet and the planet itself,
Gotcha.
but between the race of humans over generations. The idea that the soul inside the human body was actually eternal and from time to time has a mortal experience. It's pretty common.
I was just, during the commercial break, I was looking at the write-up on Amazon.com, and on the cover of your book, I noticed you've got a doctorate. What is your doctorate in?
It's in physics.
And where did you get that?
I got it through an online college.
Which one?
Kennedy Western University.
Oh, great. Okay.
in Thousand Oaks, California.
It's the first time I've ever seen a doctor in front of your name, so I figured that, it's just something new, and congratulations.
Well, it's more of a burden, I guess, than a blessing. I wanted the education, and I was a working professional, putting in 60, 70 hours a week for a Fortune 100 company. That company had an extension college that they endorsed, and they paid for the tuition. And it was actually quite tough. Only about 3% of the students graduate.
What was your dissertation on?
It was on long-wave radiation spectroscopy for oil and gas exploration.
Oh, there you go. That sounds like a mouthful.
Yeah. Well, it's basically ground-probing radar using radio waves and distortions that happen as energy is absorbed by petroliferous zones. It was kind of boring, but it was also very rewarding to write the dissertation and prove my theories.
Brooke, it's been a pleasure talking to you again. Continued success, and I want to thank you very much for sharing with us here on the X Zone.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob. Good to be back on the X Zone.
Take care now. X Zone Nation, Brooks Agnew has been my guest to this hour. www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. That's www.rememberingthefuturebook.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the hour as we continue here in the X Zone. Don't go away.